Thank you.
Right, well, thanks, Helen, and thank you for inviting me for the webinar today. As Helen said, my name is Fran and I'm a Research Grants Manager at CR UK. And I'm pleased to give an introduction to our fellowship and bursary funding opportunities and give some insight from a funder perspective on how we're assessing fellowship applications and how you can best prepare for a fellowship application. So just a quick slide to outline what we'll cover in the presentation today. So I'm going to touch on our research strategy and our career pipeline. And then I'm going to move on to talking a little bit about our competency-based framework and then moving on to some application tips. So the importance of the 3 Ps and how to best prepare yourself for a fellowship application and interview. So we are the world's leading cancer charity dedicated to saving lives through research, influence and information. Cancer Research UK supports research into the prevention, detection and treatment of cancer through the work of over 4,000 scientists, doctors and nurses. We support research in over 140 institutions and we work with over 150 NHS trusts across our portfolio of clinical trials. We are also passionate about supporting brilliant people. We support over 500 PhD students and more than 900 principal investigators. So our research strategy puts discovery research at the heart of everything we do to help us understand more about how tumours develop, grow and spread, how they interact with the rest of the body and how they evolve and evade treatments. So we need to see discovery with purpose. So we're committing to supporting a broad portfolio of excellent discovery research. As we know, this is essential. This is the essential foundation to enable innovation and the development of effective interventions to beat cancer. So the strategy is built around 4 objectives: to discover, detect, prevent and treat as a virtuous cycle so that progress in understanding the fundamental biology of cancer leads to new prevention measures, tests and treatments. So in order to achieve our strategy and drive progress in cancer research, we need to invest in people. So we aim to support the best cancer researchers and fund the highest quality of research. Our research strategy is underpinned by our principles: to invest in creative people who can deliver research of the highest quality, to support research to reduce cancer inequalities and improve outcomes for everyone, and to involve people affected by cancer in our work. So firstly, and most importantly, we are providing financial support. And we provide this to support researchers at different stages in their career, which we generally group into these 3 categories. So PhD students, postdocs and fellows. PhD students and postdocs are funded indirectly through our Centres and Institutes infrastructure network and through individual response mode programs, projects and fellowships. And we support fellows through personal fellowships, supporting both clinical and non-clinical researchers to establish their own research fields and advance their academic career. Apart from supporting our fellows as a charity, we're also very committed to supporting a positive research culture more broadly, which means that we care about how research is carried out. We've identified that we can use different levers as a funder to improve research culture. So we can use our influence as a funder, for example, by our policies on dignity at work in research and introducing flexible research careers policies, including part-time working and long-term leave. We can improve how we fund research and incentivise good practice, for example, through signing up to the San Francisco Declaration on Research Assessment, or DORA, by rolling out narrative-based CVs to all of our funding schemes, and by removing our time-bound eligibility criteria for our fellowships and introducing a competency-based framework to increase flexibility and allow for people with different career journeys to apply to our schemes at a time that is right for them. And we also provide opportunities for researchers to thrive and develop, and also making research careers more accessible for different backgrounds. And both of these points I will cover in a little bit more detail now. So over the past few years or so, we have put some targeted cancer support initiatives, particularly focused on the earlier career end of the pipeline, to ensure more young people from underrepresented and diverse backgrounds can enter the academic pipeline. For these interventions, we've partnered with a number of organisations, and we've also more recently launched a new scheme for observing our funding panels and committees. So in one of these, we've partnered with Into Science, which is an organisation that aims to provide young people from low income and disadvantaged backgrounds an opportunity to gain practical insight into the STEM sector, as well as knowledge and confidence to progress to university. And we've also partnered with them on the Into Research programme, which aims to support undergraduate students from underrepresented backgrounds to progress to a PhD in cancer research through mentorship and a placement in a research group. So what's great about this programme is that it not only focuses on the students, but also on the mentors by providing them with cultural literacy training, which they'll hopefully use to promote cultural change within their own work environment. We've also partnered with Black in Cancer, which is a mentorship programme that's run by Black cancer researchers across the UK and the US. So we pair up Black undergraduate students with cancer researchers. And we also have our dedicated Women of Influence mentorship scheme to support our female fellows to stay and progress in cancer research. With all of these interventions, we're hoping to make a positive change, but there's obviously so much more that needs to be done to ensure that careers in cancer research are accessible and inclusive. So we'll continue to work collaboratively with the other funders and organisations, but would also very much also like to hear from you if you have any ideas about how we can improve our diversity in our talent pipeline. So please, if you have any ideas, do come and talk to us. So as I mentioned before, we have launched the new scheme for observing funding panels and committees. So just to provide a little bit more context on this initiative, we've recently launched the opportunity for early to mid-career researchers to observe our funding committees and panels across our funding remit. So this initiative with the Research Careers panel has been running for the past couple of years, and we've received very positive feedback from the observers that have attended. We've recently published some of their comments on our website, so please do take a look. And we hope through this opportunity, we will demystify the review process and enable you as early career researchers to get a better insight into how grant funding decisions are made, to ensure that we fund the best quality research and to also help you develop successful applications. So for this scheme, we prioritise expressions of interest from researchers from ethnic minority groups and for women. Particularly for our fellowships to address some of the underrepresentation that's been shown by our diversity data report. But we welcome expressions of interest from all early to mid-career cancer researchers who are potential applicants for one of our awards within the next 2 years. But I should say that the demand for this scheme has been unprecedented. So there will probably be a delay if you are allocated a space, if you are eligible. But please do visit our website and sign up if you are interested. And in September last year, we also launched a new pilot programme called the Bridge to Academic Leadership Programme, or the BAL. And this is to support postdoctoral researchers aiming to transition to group leader positions in the next 2 to 3 years. So in this scheme, a cohort of 20 postdocs working in cancer in the UK were recruited to the programme via a competitive process. And during the 6-month programme, participants are provided with training in key skills and competencies required to become an independent.
I think you're on mute. Can you unmute yourself? That's it.
Yeah, I don't know why that happened.
No, that was weird.
During the 6-month programme, participants are provided with training in key skills and competencies required to become an independent researcher. This includes developing a research niche, pitching for funding, leadership and management, negotiation and grant writing skills. As well as receiving comprehensive training in these areas, programme participants have the opportunity to apply for the BAL Award, which is a 25k seed award which is designed to support participants to further develop independent research ideas and skills for future fellowship applications. So throughout the course of the BAL programme, participants were given the tools and guidance to help them build their application for the BAL award, which included feedback from one member of the BAL expert review panel on a draft of their application. If you are thinking of applying for this award, I should say that this 25k BAL award is flexible and can be used to generate data, visit other research groups, or develop any technical skills and help and experience to help you gain new expertise or establish and develop collaborations between research groups. So the application for this award was, which included the research proposal, was modelled on a CIEK Career Development Fellowship outline application to kind of give you a realistic account of the grant writing process for a fellowship. So as this was a pilot scheme, we don't actually have a date yet for potentially when we might have any new applications, but we do hope that the deadline for the next round will be in spring 2026. So please do keep an eye on our website to see any more information. Right, moving on to our funding opportunities. As an organisation, we want to attract, develop and retain the best researchers to help us in our cause and to beat cancer sooner. So how do we develop the cancer research leaders of tomorrow? So the Research Careers Committee is unique within response mode funding in cutting across all of our research themes. So we have a broad remit which cuts across the themes to understand, prevent and detect and treat cancer. So applications are encouraged from any area of CIEK's funding remit, except for drug discovery research and clinical trials. Excuse me. So this diagram highlights the fellowships and awards that we offer, from PhD studentships at the more earlier stages to fellowships for postdocs, junior PIs and more senior researchers. So I'll give a snapshot of the funding opportunities for both non-clinical and clinical researchers along the pipeline, but please do visit our web pages using the links or get in touch if you'd like to discuss any of the schemes in more detail. So the schemes that are in black are open to both clinical and non-clinical academics, and those in blue are specific to clinical academics only. And both of these are assessed by the CIEK Research Careers Committee. The opportunities that are highlighted in light grey for students, junior group leaders and mid-career researchers are managed in a slightly different way. So for all of our fellowship opportunities, we believe that you should be able to apply for funding at a time that is right for you, and you should not be defined by a particular cutoff point, which is why several years ago now, we removed our post-PhD time restrictions on all of our fellowship schemes and instead introduced a competency-based framework across all of our fellowship schemes. So we're hoping that with this framework, we provide you with more flexibility so you can apply at a time that's right for you, but also to provide more clarity and transparency in terms of what the skills and experience we expect you to demonstrate at different stages in your career. So just to briefly explain the framework, it outlines the different career stages under which we have grouped all of our fellowships we have on offer. So the first stage is develop independence. So this is the career stage where you prepare yourself towards becoming an independent researcher and ultimately setting up your own research group. The next stage is establish independence. So the aim of this next career stage is to establish your own independent cancer research programme and facilitate your transition from that senior postdoc to lecturer or junior PI. And the final stage is transition to scientific leadership. At this stage, the aim is to further develop your own cancer research programme and become an internationally recognised leader within your field. So we distinguish between what skills and experience we expect to have at the time of applying for a fellowship and which we expect you to develop over the course of the fellowship. And we've also grouped all of the wider supporting and enabling skills together so you know which transferable skills are needed at which stage in your career. As part of the application process for any of our fellowship schemes, you'll be asked to complete a skills and experience form, which uses the same headings as the framework. So it really allows you to highlight your strengths as a researcher. And we have 4 specific committee members who are dedicated to assessing the applicants' wider supporting skills and experience, such as their ability to lead, motivate and inspire their own research team. So these assessors have a wealth of experience in the pharmaceutical industry, healthcare communications and senior leadership roles, and are mentors for our Women of Influence scheme. So we hope that this framework will be a useful tool to you. Even if you're not at the career stage for applying for a fellowship at the moment, we encourage you to review it so that you can get a sense of what you should be working towards. So I'm just quickly sharing the pipeline again, so hopefully you can see where the schemes fit under the framework headings. We have a broad spectrum of opportunities for supporting early career researchers, but I just want to quickly touch on our bursaries, as the way that we run those is different to that of our fellowship schemes. So I thought it would be useful at this point to cover that before I move on to our fellowship offering. So research bursaries provide short-term funding to allow clinicians and other health professionals to get involved in research projects early in their career. So our pre-doctoral bursary aims to fund the best clinical academics to develop careers in the field of cancer. So the bursary is designed to provide short-term funding for a period of research and is intended for those that are interested in a career in academic medicine and wishing to gain experience and skills in cancer research. The bursary will support the applicant to obtain preliminary data before applying for a PhD or an MD fellowship. So who can apply for these awards? You have to be a clinician in training, nurse or an allied health professional. And you would need to be based in the UK at a UK university or research institute. So what is supported? The pre-doctoral bursary provides funding for up to 12 months support and up to 25k, which can be used for research expenses and services, and also the salary for the applicant. Whereas the postdoctoral bursary, this one is intended for those that are committed to a career in academic medicine and wish to pursue their research interests alongside completing specialty training. So this is intended to support the applicant to secure personal fellowship funding or a permanent academic post at a later stage of training or on completion of training. So you can use these bursaries to obtain preliminary data and could help secure a future personal fellowship or permanent academic post. In order to be eligible, you should have secured protected research time and a salary, for example, through an academic clinical lectureship. And typically you should be ST3 or above, so have started specialty training and have more than 1 year of clinical training left. And for this award, you can apply for up to 35k to cover running expenses for up to 2 years. So in terms of tips for these applications, these are single stage written applications. So it's really important that you explain what the bursary will enable you to do, such as generating preliminary data for a fellowship application, gaining research experience, and exploring whether a career as a clinician scientist is something that is for you. The committee will be looking at how the proposed work will fit within your future career plans, so think about your onward research plan. And the committee will look at the training opportunity that the bursary will give you. So will you be learning any new skills or obtaining any new experiences? As well as writing the research proposal of your proposed project, you'll need to submit full costings for the proposed work. You'll need letters of support accompanying your application and have thought about how the project will fit with your clinical commitments, and you'll need to identify a main supervisor that will support you throughout the project. So I'm now going to move on to talking about our fellowships. So the first career stage in the framework is the develop independent stage. So at the time of applying for one of these funding opportunities, you should have started to develop some of your own independent research ideas and may be making important research contributions through a range of outputs. You should have your own research network independent from your current supervisor, and you should be building towards gaining leadership skills such as organising of workshops or supervision of students. And during the fellowship, you should develop your own cancer research plans with support from relevant mentors, and have developed your own research network through collaborations within or outside of your institution. So our Clinician Scientist Fellowship is a personal fellowship for clinicians who either completed or are close to completing their clinical training and who are interested in developing more research experience to prepare yourself to becoming an independent researcher and ultimately setting up your own research group. So we recognise the unique challenges for clinician scientists in balancing research and clinical work. So our Clinician Scientist Fellowship aims to be flexible, enabling you to develop your own academic career whilst fulfilling your clinical commitments. And at the end of the fellowship, you should be in a competitive position to apply for our Advanced Clinician Scientist Fellowship. So you are expected to dedicate 80% of your time to research, but have to remain clinically active for the other 20%. What is supported? So funding for a Clinician Scientist Fellowship does not typically exceed 1 million and can last up to 5 years. And the award can be used to fund your salary at the appropriate specialty training or consultant grade, associated running expenses, research service costs and equipment costing up to 25k in total. Also support for conference attendance for the fellowship holder, and you can request to fund one research post. So the Clinician Scientist Fellowship is a 2-stage application process, and I will be touching on the application process for our fellowships a little bit later. So the next stage in the framework is the Establish Independent stage. So the aim of this career stage is to establish your own independent cancer research programme. So the fellowships that fall under this category are the Career Development Fellowship, the Career Establishment Award and the Advanced Clinician Scientist Fellowship. The ambition of these 3 funding opportunities is to provide the platform to transition between the senior postdoc to lecturer on the career stage on our career pipeline. So to give you an idea of the expectations at this stage, at the time of applying, you should have a track record of novel research that demonstrates an impact in your field and applicability to cancer research through a range of outputs such as preprints, training, community outreach, patents, key data sets. You should be starting to be identified for your expertise, such as being selected to present at conferences or for peer review experience. You should have started to build relevant collaborations, and these can be within or outside of your current institution or discipline. And I've identified clinical or non-clinical career development support at your host research environment by establishing networks and suitable mentors. You should have developed or demonstrated leadership skills through the supervision of PhD and MSci students. And you should also have plans to drive the development of your own research group by having plans to develop the skills you will need to achieve this. So the Career Development Fellowship is open to both clinical and non-clinical academics. The Career Development Fellowship, supports new group leaders who do not have a salaried independent position to establish their own independent research group. For the Career Development Fellowship, you will need a PhD and significant postdoc experience. It provides funding for 6 years, covering 1 postdoc, 1 technician, and or a non-clinical PhD student, as well as running expenses and equipment costs. So the CDF provides a salary, and therefore you can request up to 1.5 million with this scheme. There are 2 funding calls per year for this scheme, so there's one in the spring and one in the autumn. Moving on to the Career Establishment Award. So this supports new group leaders who have a salaried independent position to establish their own independent research group. Again, you'll need a PhD and significant postdoc experience, and it provides funding for 6 years, covering 1 postdoc, 1 technician, or a non-clinical PhD student, as well as running expenses and equipment costs. The difference between the Career Development Fellowship and the Career Establishment Award is that the Career Development Fellowship provides a salary, while the Career Establishment Award is designed for researchers with an independent salary, such as a lecturer. So you can request up to 1 million with this scheme. And again, there are 2 funding calls per year for this scheme with the same deadlines. For clinical academics, we have the Advanced Clinician Scientist Fellowship. The Advanced Clinician Scientist Fellowship supports excellent clinician scientists to develop independence and leadership in their field of academic research. Support for this is for 5 years, and up to 1.5 million can be requested, which includes a salary. For the Advanced Clinician Scientist Fellowship, you would need a PhD and significant postdoc experience and to be post-CCT or consultant status. And the same scheme deadline is as the same two previous schemes. Just to note at this point that some of our fellowship schemes for clinicians specifically will be changing in the near future, so please do watch out for any announcements. This change is based on improving and strengthening our support of clinical academic careers and responding to the funder-specific recommendations of the Office for Strategic Coordination of Health Research, or OSCR, report on addressing the decline of clinical academics. So please do keep an eye on our website for any announcements that are hopefully coming soon. And finally, just to move on to the last stage of the framework, which is transitioning to scientific leadership. So the aim of this career stage is to develop a long-term scientific direction for your own research group, to establish an international research network, to build your reputation as a world leader in your cancer research field. So the fellowships that fall under this category are the Senior Cancer Research Fellowship and the Programme Foundation Awards, which are reviewed by the Discovery Research Committee. So to give you an idea of the expectations at this stage, at the time of applying, you should have an established track record that demonstrates your ability to deliver novel research that has impact and international recognition in your field. You should have evidence of successful national or international collaborations. You should have evidence of influence in the international community through invites to peer review and scientific committees or panels, or invites to present at international conferences. You should also have evidence of leveraged independent research funding through intermediate fellowships, project funding, or industrial support. You should also have a vision for the potential clinical impact of your research and the pathway to achieve it, as well as clear plans to drive the career and scientific development of your staff through things such as knowledge-based training, mentoring, setting and managing individual career expectations, and giving feedback. So the Senior Cancer Research Fellowship, again, is open to both clinical and non-clinical academics and supports group leaders to further develop their own research programme and build their reputation as a world leader in their cancer research field. For the Senior Cancer Research Fellowship, you'll need to have a PhD or MD and extensive postdoctoral experience, and also have the space and facilities to run an independent research group. It provides funding for 6 years, and up to 1.75 million can be requested, which will cover 50% of your salary, as well as the salaries for 2 posts for either postdoctoral researchers, technician, or non-clinical PhD student, as well as running expenses and equipment. If your salary, however, is fully funded by your host institution, you may be eligible for our Programme Foundation Awards. So these provide funding for 6 years, and up to 1.5 million can be requested, again for salaries of postdoctoral researchers, technicians, and non-clinical PhD students, running expenses and equipment. And although the Programme Foundation Awards are managed by a different committee, they again have 2 funding calls per year, with the deadlines being on the slide. So I'm just going to briefly touch on some other funding which come through our other committees that might be of interest to any non-clinicians. So if you work in the early detection and diagnosis space, you may be eligible to apply for Primer and Projects Awards. So Primer Awards provide seed funding to develop novel and out-of-the-box ideas and collaborations to build and make progress in the early detection diagnosis field. They provide up to 100k for up to 1 year of funding, and the application deadline for that is in March next year. Or you may also be interested in project awards. So these provide a bit more substantial funding for up to 500k for up to 3 years to support projects that aim to have a significant impact on how and when cancers are detected. So postdocs can apply as leads for these project awards and also request their salary. And the application deadline for that is in early December. If you work in the prevention and population research space, you may be able to apply for projects or biology to prevention awards. So the project awards provide support for focused projects targeting key questions in prevention and population research. They provide up to 500k for 3 years, and the duration and the value of these are flexible. Biology to Prevention Awards provide support for the research that aims to generate biological and mechanistic understanding for cancer prevention. So the award provides up to 600k for up to 5 years. And again, the duration and value of these are flexible. For both awards, postdocs can apply as leads and request their salary as part of the award. Project awards in the discovery research area are currently under development. So again, please do keep an eye on our website for any new information that might come out about those. So to move back to fellowships, I'm next going to look at how the assessment criteria that RCC committee and the panels use for any of our fellowship applications. So first, just talk about the review process for the Research Careers Committee. So initially, you will submit an outline application, which is a slightly shorter application that gets reviewed by the Research Careers Committee only. Successful applicants at this stage will be invited to submit a full application, and all applicants will receive feedback on their application, whether they are successfully shortlisted or not. Normally, if you are shortlisted, you will have about 8 weeks from finding out you've been shortlisted to submit your full application. Your full application is a longer application, and you will also be invited to an interview on an expert review panel for this stage. This panel for this is made up of external expert reviewers with specific scientific expertise related to your application, as well as the Research Careers Committee members. And finally, after the interview, there is then a funding committee review with the Research Careers Committee members only, and this is where the funding decision is made. So the funding decision takes into account the expert review panel assessment and also thinks about things such as our strategic importance and portfolio fit. So overall, from outline application to final funding decision takes around about 6 months. So the 3 Ps are what are used by the committee and by our expert review panels to assess applications. So the first of these 3 Ps is person. So this is your potential to conduct the proposed research. So funding committees will assess your potential primarily based on your track record, which includes your outputs, such as whether you've published well or have developed data sets or patents, and whether you've gained recognition in your field. So as I've said before, we're a signatory of DORA, so the committee will be looking at the impact of your outputs rather than the metrics of the journal in which you've published. Also, supporting skills are also important, such as leadership, which obviously gets increasingly more important the more senior you become. And then committees and panels will also look at whether you show potential to develop as an independent researcher. So are you developing your own research niche, which shouldn't overlap too much with what your supervisor does? And have you been able to leverage independent funding? So generally, your skills and experience will be reviewed, and whether these are appropriate for your career stage is what is assessed. The second P is project. So obviously you'll be assessed on your research plans. They look at the quality of the science. So is it novel and interesting, but also is it relevant to our remit? And for us, it should be relevant to either cancer biology, prevention, diagnosis, or treatment. And the third P is place. So research environment, is this the best place for you to be doing this type of work? Will you have the right access to support and facilities and to the people that are relevant for the success of your research? So with this in mind, I'm just going to run through some top tips that can help you prepare for submitting an application. So please keep in mind that at the outline stage, you'll have a limited amount of words available to convince the committee that you and your proposal are worth funding. So first of all, plan ahead. So assess your suitability for a fellowship and check our eligibility criteria. So which fellowship should you apply for, and is it the right time to apply now? what skills and experience do you need? So please check out our competency framework to see where you would sit on our career pipeline. And also, how likely is it that you will get the fellowship? Are there examples of people who are like you who have been funded? And you can find examples of these on our website. But please do contact us if you are uncertain of anything. We're always happy to help and answer any questions that you might have. Please do your research and find out when the application deadlines are to give yourself plenty of time to prepare for your application. And please read the application guidelines, as they're there to help you write the actual application. So after you've done all that, you're now prepped and ready to go. So make a good first impression. First of all, clarity of writing. The outline stage is designed that you have a word limit to get your research plans across. So it's really important that you demonstrate clarity of thought. How are you going to show us what the key priority areas are that you're going to focus on during the next 5 or 6 years? And if you can't translate what you're thinking into a clear thought, then it's not going to make it easy to fund. You should also have attention to detail, so be mindful of spelling and grammatical mistakes. And you should also have an ability to communicate your ideas to different stakeholders. So get a lot of feedback on your grant proposal. Maybe not an expert in your field about what is confusing and what is clear. Did they understand what you were trying to achieve? Family, friends can be really good for this. And you'll get a much better proposal from this, as people bring lots of different perspectives. So it's a great way of actually mimicking the actual committee or panel review process, during which your proposal will be read by scientists with very different backgrounds. And at CIK, your outline application will be read by the Research Careers Committee only, who cover a broad range of different research areas. So clarity in explaining your plans is essential. Also, demonstrate big picture thinking and the impact of your research. What is the problem you're trying to solve, and what is the impact your research is going to make? How will it benefit patients? Pathway to impact is also important, even if it's a basic science application. Prepare coherent research questions and hypotheses. So make sure these are very clear. As mentioned before, not everyone on the committee is an expert in your field, and they need to be able to know what you're doing to be able to judge it. Make sure that your aims fit together and that they're ambitious but also achievable in the next 5 or 6 years. And be mindful that if you have multiple aims, that you have contingency plans in place. So please consider what you will do if one of your experimental work packages isn't successful. And this links in with the next point, which is demonstrate feasibility. So make it clear how your project is structured. A Gantt chart can really help visualize what you plan to do and when to achieve it. Think everything through. How you will accomplish this? So how is your proposed methodology going to answer your question? Provide enough detail explaining how your collaborators will help you and support you in the areas you don't have expertise. Please be focused in your research proposal. Don't throw everything in there. Don't overcomplicate it. Use the best method to get the answer. And be realistic about the research you can achieve rather than just saying the things that you think the funder wants to hear. Also related to demonstrate feasibility is that you should be able to justify the premise of your project, especially if you're proposing to do something that's never actually been done before. It's really crucial to show any experimental data that you might have. And finally, letters of recommendation. Please don't underestimate the power of a glowing or underwhelming letter of support, as it can make all the difference. So the way that it works at CIK is that if you've been shortlisted by our funding committee, you will then be invited to submit a full application, which means you get an opportunity to provide some more details and further explain your research plans. And you'll also be asked to attend an interview with an expert review panel. So for this next bit, I will primarily focus on how to best prepare you for an interview. So please familiarise yourself with the interview process, so the timings, your presentation, our guidelines, and who sits on the panel or committee. So CIK will provide feedback after your outline application has been reviewed, so please take the time to read the feedback. On reviewing your full application, we ask panel members to give comments and questions in advance of the areas they'd like to discuss with you in the interview. Make sure you understand everything to the detail in your application, and be prepared to get questions about everything, even if it's work that you haven't done yourself but was done by a collaborator. Make sure you understand this and how certain calculations were being made, for example. Know your priorities, so be prepared to answer the question, what is the one thing you would do? The committee wants to know whether you are sufficiently focused. Is there a risk you might do unnecessary work and lose track of the actual research question? So also be prepared to sell yourself. Really make a case. Funders are not just funding your research, but they're also funding you. It's important that you demonstrate signs of independence. So think about how you're carving out your own research niche, how your work will set you apart from your supervisor and anyone else in the field. It's important to talk to your supervisor about what you want to work on and have them on your side. So think very carefully about where you're proposing to do your research. Are you planning on staying at the same place? And if so, you need to articulate how you have been demonstrating independence. You need to demonstrate that you're aware of any potential competitors and articulate why you are the best person to do the work and what's giving you the edge. Identify where you could benefit from collaborators, areas where you don't have expertise, but at the same time don't overly rely on collaborators. You need to be clear on what expertise you are bringing and what you will be doing. I touched on this earlier as well. Showing that you have what it takes to be a future leader is really important. So think about the ways you've demonstrated leadership abilities. So dealing with conflict, motivation, delegation, communication, learning to give feedback is very important. Arrange a mock interview and practice getting asked questions from a panel. Can be colleagues, friends, etc., things like that. And finally, just make sure that you please rehearse. So thanks for listening. I've realised I've gone on for a very long time. So all of our schemes have web pages, but you're very welcome to email any of us and discuss if you have any questions. So thank you.
Thanks, Fran. That was great. Kerry, I think we'll stop recording now so we can open up for Q&A.